Hi guys, how are you guys? I hope you guys are okay. Are you guys ready for the new year? I hope you guys are ready for the new year. But listen, I have to tell you guys a couple of things before you enter the new year. Okay, so one thing I want to remind you guys about before you enter the new year is remember that for most of you guys going through this where you feel like you got to start over, I want you guys to get that out of your mind. Get that thought out of your mind. You are not starting over, okay? You are rebuilding. See, starting over means you're starting from scratch. That means like whatever wisdom and knowledge you've gained from whatever experience you've been through is completely erased. Okay, that's not true, because everything that you redo in life, you are bringing some wisdom and knowledge from something that was previous, and you are using that wisdom and knowledge into something new. The past relationships that did not serve you for your highest purpose, your highest good through God, you have learned from this, and now this is why you entering the new year, or this is why you are now more cautious as to who you are allowing in your life, right? It's the same concept with other things. You're going to bring a little piece of the knowledge and the wisdom that you've gained from experiences into your next season. So always say to yourself, I'm not starting over, I'm rebuilding. Okay, I'm rebuilding. All right, no more starting over, rebuilding. And when you rebuild, trust me, every time you build, you're gonna be able to form something out of whatever it is that you are building. Okay, and if it's through God, you are building it accordingly. Okay, another thing I want to discuss with you guys so you guys can remember into the new year, heading into the new year, is what's understood between you and God does not need to be explained. And you guys are like, what are you talking about, Steph? So I was having a conversation with God, and God was basically saying no explaining yourself in 2022. What is understood between you and God does not need to be explained to anybody else. If God tells you something specific and he is encouraging you to do something, and somebody's not agreeing with it, or you know 100% you heard from God and you fasted about it and they're not agreeing with it, what is going on in your life and what God has told you to do and the plans that God has set up for you does not need to be explained to others. Stop explaining yourself, okay? I've honestly stopped explaining myself a lot this year. I still do it here and there, but one thing God was telling me, this happened a few weeks back, actually a month ago, you know, there were some things that I saw in the comment section that wasn't true. And I'm like, but God did tell me this. And I wanted to respond to the person. And later on that night, God told me, he said, forgive them. God said, forgive them. He said, don't explain yourself no more. Don't even respond to any of the comments anymore. Don't explain yourself. What is understood between me and you does not need to be explained. You see, not everybody is going to see what God has shown you. Not everyone is supposed to see what God has shown you. You have to remember, and now, like I said, it goes back to that Jeremiah 33 verse 3 moment. You have to remember that a lot of the prophets in the past, whatever they've seen and they've heard and God has told them to reveal, they have written it down. That's why we have it now in the book, okay? But there's a lot of things that God has revealed to these prophets that is something specifically just for them to know between God, or them and a couple of others to know, but it has not been written, right? Because it's not meant to be shown to everybody. Do you get what I'm saying? So what was written was meant to be seen by everybody, but not everything that God tells you is meant to be seen by everyone. Not everything that God has shown you is meant to be seen by everyone. There's a reason for this. There's a reason for this. Do you see what I mean? Yes, sometimes God, and I'm going to give you an example too. There was one thing that God told me, and there was someone that wasn't agreeing with it, and I wanted to explain myself so bad. And then when I didn't explain myself, later when I went to bed, God was like, shh. I was like, okay. And I'm like, why can't I explain this? He said, shh. So there's certain things that God will show you that you cannot explain to other people. That is not meant to be explained to other people. Remember what I told you guys in the other video where I said, sometimes you are tricked into explaining your prophecies that God has given you. Because in order to allow people to see that you are really hearing from God, it means you may have to really open up about what you and God discussed. You know what I mean? And that's not supposed to be the case. You're not supposed to always open up to people about what it is you and God discussed. Do you see what I'm saying? And what God has shown you, because you can be tricked into telling your prophecies. But it's not just about prophecy. It's a good type of pattern, a good type of it's a good, I'm not going to say pattern, but it's a good trait to have, is just remembering that if God and me talked about this, if God and me discussed this in the meeting during the fast, there's no reason for me to explain it to anyone else. If they don't understand it and they don't get it, they're not supposed to understand it. They're not supposed to get it. Okay? And I'm telling you, when you stop explaining yourself to people, your life will be so much more peaceful. Because all you have to remember in the back of your mind is, if God approved it, if God and me talked about this, what nobody else says matters. Do you see what I mean? Sometimes God will reveal it later on. Like, for example, God may show you something and may not show someone else, and then they may say you're wrong, or they may be against it, or they may try to criticize you, right? And God may show others exactly what he's shown you, but then the people that are not agreeing with you didn't get to see what God has shown you and shown others. Do you get what I'm saying? And there's a reason for that. We don't know the reasons. It could be because the hearts, they're not there in the heart. It could be whatever reason it is. But you have to remember, just keep certain things that God shows you to yourself, and don't explain yourself in 2021. Okay, I'm going to say it again. What God has shown you, and the discussions that you and God has, what's meant for you and God to know doesn't always have to be explained to others, unless God tells you to explain it to others. Okay. Another thing I want to tell you guys about, so you can go into 2022 remembering this in the back of your head. You can't be upset about people that don't like you, people that don't agree with you. Not everyone's going to agree with you. Not everyone is going to like you. There's people that don't even know you that may not like you. Okay, like they may have no reason to dislike you, but it's just your presence may trigger them, what you say may trigger them, even your words may trigger them, or the way you talk may trigger them. You get what I'm saying? And they will look for any reason to criticize you. Okay, so even if you explained yourself, or they were wrong about something, they're going to find something else to criticize you about. Some people are just always looking for you to slip up, or always looking for a reason to criticize you. And they may not be able to find anything. So the one time you do something that they don't agree with or they don't like, they may just use that against you. You know what that means? You know what that means? When someone, you know, has been cheering you on, is motivated by you, is uplifting you and everything, and then all of a sudden there's one thing they see about you that they don't like that happened the other day, a month ago, when the person that said something in the comment section, they saw something on my social media they didn't agree with, and they got really mad at me, but they were cheering me on for like months past. And God said to me that night, forgive her and don't say nothing. I said, okay, and there's a reason why God said don't say nothing, right? So people will often find one thing that's wrong about you, and then they will forget about all the other times they were cheering you on, forget about all the other times they really were encouraged by you, or forget about all the other times that you really shared your heart with them, and they will erase every positive thing about you over one thing they don't agree with or one thing they don't like. You know what that means when people do that? It means they were always looking for something to criticize you about or accuse you for, but they couldn't find anything. Do you get what I'm saying? Because a person that won't be looking for that, the one thing that you do that they don't agree with, they would not use that against you. Do you see what I'm saying? So you have to remember also too that, in back in the day, you have to remember the Pharisees. The Pharisees claimed to love Abba, God. Okay, the Pharisees claimed to love Abba and God. The Pharisees claimed to know the law, but they did not accept Jesus. They claimed to love God, but they couldn't accept Jesus. They always tried to find reasons to criticize Jesus. Even when Jesus never really explained himself and his works just proved it, always proved them wrong, they always still looked for something to complain about when it came to Jesus. right? And the reason being is because they did not have that love in their heart for Abba. They said they love Abba and they're keeping the laws of Abba, but Abba wasn't in their heart. Because if Abba was in their heart, they wouldn't have done Jesus the way they did Jesus. They wouldn't have criticized Jesus the way they criticized. So you have to remember that, you know, let me tell you something. Back in the day, before I knew God on a spiritual level, before I got to know God, I only knew God through the Bible. I only knew God based on how I grew up, because I was in and out of church my whole life, right? But that's how I knew God. I knew God based on the Bible, and I knew God based on what I heard, and I knew God based on, you know, the church. But I didn't know God. I didn't know God. Like, I didn't know God, which means I built a relationship with him through the Bible, through physically knowing him and through the Bible and what I've heard about him in church and stuff, but I didn't really build a relationship with him in here. Do you see what I'm saying? I didn't build a relationship with here. The difference between now and then is then I didn't build a relationship with God through here. Okay? Now, when I had my first encounter with Christ, the reason why I had my first encounter with Christ and he revealed himself to me was because I started building my relationship from here, from my heart. You see what I'm saying? So it's not always about you knowing the Bible at the back of your hand and knowing all the laws of the Bible and knowing, you know, Jesus through the Bible, because people think they know God, but they don't know God. Do you see what I'm saying? There's a big difference. So there's people that think they know God, but they don't know God. They don't know God from here. God will reveal himself to those that know God from here, that build that spiritual relationship with him. That when they think about God, they get emotional. They want to cry. They feel God in their heart. And everything they do in their life and everything that they say and everyone that they treat, they always think about how God would treat that person before they treat that person that way, even the enemies. That's how you build a relationship with God from here. Because you can look at someone and say, if I have bitter intentions towards that person in my heart, would Jesus be okay with that? Would Jesus have these same motives that I have? God knows your motives behind everything, right? So God knows if you are just watching someone and waiting to criticize them because you really don't like them, because they trigger you, but you're going to use something to criticize them about, to cover up, to mask you disliking them just for the sake of disliking them. God can see that. You see what I mean? And that's what the Pharisees used to do, right? I have a scripture for you guys. The scripture that I have for you is Matthew 15, verse 8 and 9. Those people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain, but their teachings are merely human rules. Okay. Matthew 5, verse 8. Blessed are the pure heart, for they shall see God. Okay. So you have to remember what God, you and God discuss does not need to be explained. Okay. What is not understood what is understood between you and God does not need to be explained in 2022 and the years to come. All right. All right. So let them criticize you. Let them. When I first started my channel, I literally heard, let them judge you. And I'm like, what? Because I love explaining myself. And he said, let them judge you. Because God has a way of revealing things when you're just being still, you know? And sometimes some things that, like I said, that God shows you, there's a reason why he showed you and didn't show others. It's not that he favors you over others. No, it's that maybe you have a stronger relationship with him. Maybe because you know him from your heart, he is able to reveal certain things to you that he can't reveal to everybody else. So I'm pretty sure a lot of the prophets that wrote these scriptures, half of the stuff that God showed them, they didn't write it in the book. And you know why? Because it was between them and God. So you have to keep that in your mind in 2022 and the years to come, that you don't always have to explain yourself. You don't always have to explain yourself to people. Okay? I will talk to you guys soon. I love you guys. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.